Alright, this is going to be how I purchased a 2006 Pontiac Grand Prix and what I did to it and where it ended up at. The different trim levels that this car comes in is the base, the GT, and the GXP. I believe this was the GP. So I'm not going to give the guy's information out, but I bought it from this guy named Larry. He gave it to me for $500. It needed a lifter. It had a collapsed lifter in the motor. So what I thought was a good idea was to just pull the motor out completely and to just put a whole new motor in it. So I started disconnecting all the wiring harnesses, started taking out the mounts, draining all the fluids, doing what you're supposed to do when you got to pull the motor out. So I found one on the marketplace, eBay, for very, very cheap. Now, at the time, I also was working a full-time job and I was doing mobile work. So I was constantly helping out a lot of people fix their cars, recover their cars, install parts on their cars. So you got to keep that in mind too. So I never had time to work on my own stuff. So it was very rare that I got to work on my own stuff. So I finally got the motor taken out. I took the bumper off and the headlights off and radiator out just so I wouldn't damage it, because at the angle that I was picking the motor up, you would completely understand as to why I took all that off, because it was going to get damaged. Now, I did want to custom spray the engine bay a nice orange, a racing orange. This is what the motor looked like after I pulled it out. I used the hoist I got from Harbor Freight for like $200. I had to save up for that too. So we're already $700 into the build already off of just pulling the motor out. I still have that hoist right now. Yeah, it's a good hoist. I put it together. It came in a little box. All right, next. So this picture, you see the exhaust pipe, you see the shield, the air, and the alternator, the filter, the radiators, the wheel wells, the engine cover, 17 belts, wiper blade, everything in the front of the car. This car was so easy to pull apart, and it made so much sense. For someone being in the automotive industry for maybe 2-3 years, and you've already done this a couple times, this car was cake, bro. Easy to take apart. But anyways, I actually took the motor apart and I had moved houses, so I had to get it transported to the next house. Because life happens, so just enjoy these next couple of clips or the tape. Yes. Empty. That on that trailer, that on that trailer. Yeah, boy. Yeah, boy.
Yep.
Don't you that but means that truck? Yeah. That'll be us in the truck. Yeah. Oh! It's gonna fall down. It's gosh. Mommy's little car is very heavy. Yep. Because Louisa can pick a car up. Even the cannon. What's wrong?
Put transmission fluid in it. Put transmission fluid.
How much you paying for this?
Not much.
What is your definition of not much?
Less than what you spend.
Come on.
Mommy, how's that movie? That car movie. It's moving because under it have magnetic. Oh! It's magnetic. Here comes magnetic. What's the name? Mommy, can I eat another yogurt? Eat Jello. Yeah. Can I go? No, I can't take it. They said they can't.
Alright, so the motor had to be transported separate from the actual body of the car. We just considered it a shell, so they transported it as a shell. This is my buddy here. He's helping me transport the motor, and it pretty much just sitting in the corner in the garage over there. At the time, I was against Ram, but now I own a Dodge truck, so I kind of like Dodge. So it's kind of a crazy moment watching me get in that truck and driving the truck forward as he's lowering the motor. And I just was like in complete disgust with Dodge trucks, but now I have a Dodge truck. Funny how the world works. Alright, so after transporting the car to the house, you seen the tow truck and everything, see me following the truck all the way to the house. I ended up paying him $100 for the tow across town, so I guess we're now $800 into the build. Now, when I was very young, my grandfather had this old Ford truck, and he pulled his motor out and he sprayed the engine bay orange. And I just remembered that as a kid, so as I grew up, I'm like, hey, when I pull my first motor out, I want to put my engine bay as orange. So that's what I did. I ended up leaving the transmission in there because there was nothing wrong with the transmission. The only thing I did with transmission was change out the fluid and maybe the filter. I wanted to replace the steering rack, but I was going to do it later, so I didn't replace the steering rack. Let me see. The strut stayed the same. The rotors and pads stayed the same. The wheels and tires stayed the same. The headlights stayed the same. Everything stayed the same in the vehicle. I did not change anything. I just pretty much put a new battery in it, made sure the terminals were good, no corrosion on terminals, made sure the starter was hooked up. I didn't reuse any of the hardware for the wiring harness. I just zip tied all the wires so they look nice and smooth running around the engine bay. This next clip is going to be a clip of the motor on the ground. That's the exhaust, the O2 sensor, water pump, valve cover. What else you got in the picture? You can see the oil filter down the bottom right. It's actually sitting on the oil pan, which is crazy. I had a pallet to put on it, but it sat on the ground so smooth that I just left it on the ground. It didn't damage it. We lifted it by that little hook little thing right there. Yeah, there's a mount right there. We had to loosen that mount. It pretty much was all easy. In disconnecting the bolts from that flywheel or flex plate little thing from the transmission, it was very hard to get to one of those bolts. Like I had to use like a absurd amount of extensions to get to that bolt to get the motor off the trans. All right, here's another angle. You can actually see the fuel rail. You can see I believe that's the EGR tube with the valve cover. And the way the motor sat in the car, it didn't sit in there like a normal motor. It was sideways. So, like, to do spark plugs, you had to do 3 in the front and then, like, struggle to get the 3 in the back. Almost having to disconnect both the mounts just to lean the motor forward just to get to the other 3 spark plugs was crazy. This is the exhaust. I did have to cut the exhaust. I guess I should say that. I did have to cut the exhaust because it was extremely difficult to get those bolts off. They were kind of like almost rotted on. So yeah, I just ended up getting the exhaust re-welded when I put the motor back in and it was back running and driving. And that's the motor on the hoist, dangling from the hoist. And that's probably like the next day or something, or the day before. I don't know. Oh wait, actually, this is before.
This is where we were putting the motor back in the car, and it was a long night.
All right, so we are putting the motor back in, but it appears as if we're taking it out, but we're not. It's just the fact that we had to get the motor so high up in the air to clear everything, and then we can start descending the motor into the actual bay and lining it up with the transmission and the mounts and hooking up all the wires and filling all the fluids back up. If you couldn't tell, I ended up putting the exact same motor back in the car because I couldn't afford to buy a new engine with shipping. So I went ahead and just put the same motor back in the car. And at this point, the exhaust was hitting on something as I'm lowering it into the car. So I'm constantly having to stop, re-angle it, push the exhaust down, and then lower it some more, pick it back up, maneuver the exhaust, lower it some more, pick it back up. You know, kind of like shimmy, shimmy, just trying to do what I can to get the motor in there. And the compressor's hitting on this side too. So it was not an easy task. It was a long night. I did learn a lot from this. This was my first time pulling a motor. So don't judge too hard. I was 22 at the time. So I felt pretty accomplished. We got it done. We got the car back running. This is just the process. I guess this is a better angle of what's going on. That's me with the red head. You see what I'm talking about with the exhaust system. It is cut, and we're trying to get it back in there. It probably would have been better for me to buy a blowtorch and heat up the bolts and then actually just take it off the motor. But how would I have reconnected that after it got back in? It's such a small such a small space. So I don't know. Comment below on how you would have done that. I got the power steering reservoir pulled to the side. I got the heater hoses pulled to the side. Everything's out the way. So the only thing is hitting on is the exhaust and the compressor at this point. And I'm trying to get the oil pan cleared over the subframe little piece. All right, now I'm taking the tape off the sticker because I like the way the sticker looks. It has a lot of different types of information on it, such as the displacement of the motor. It has I believe it had how much coolant goes in there, how much Freon goes in there. I'm not too sure. I just know it had a lot of information on that sticker, and I didn't want to spray over it, so I went ahead and taped it off. Now I'm just removing the tape. Attention to detail, you know what I mean? Somebody see that, they think it came out the factory that color. But we did get the motor put back in there. This is just little after effects. This sticker over here too. I don't know what it said. Don't ask me what it said because I don't remember. Just know I wanted it to look very nice, very presentable. So I went ahead and taped it off before I spray painted it. Oh yeah, and this was on New Year's, so if you hear it popping in the background, it's fireworks. I decided to go with this orange on the little odometer, speedometer, cluster little thing. But I am going to roll a couple clips of me enjoying driving the car before I show you guys the finishing product. How that odometer look?
Odometer look good.
How the cluster looking?
Everything looks wonderful.
Yeah.
This motherfucker nice. This the motherfucking Pontiac. You understand? The Pontiac make you want to drive like a maniac. You know what I'm saying? Light green, light off.
Yes, sir.
Get that motherfucker to 30. Get out of first gear. And then hit that motherfucker. Hey, look at the speed though.
Yeah. Ooh, nigga on the brake. All right, you seen this on the highway. We're riding around it at night. It's riding pretty good to get up to 100. It's doing pretty good. Interior looked nice. I almost didn't want to get rid of it. Almost didn't want to get rid of it.
Almost.
So we had to get it up out of here. Took the carpet out. I kept the radio in there. Kept the seats in there. I took the lining out of the trunk, so it's literally just a spare tire. Put a little orange on the little door trim piece right there. All the windows work except for the back right one, I believe. The radio worked. It had no sunroof, had no heated seats. I took the console out, so it's literally just a shifter in the floor. You see the stickers. Stickers look nice. You got the diagram on the little throttle body of the little vacuum hoses or whatnot. Yeah, I just like it to be looking presentable, so you pop the hood, you can actually know what type of motor it is, what kind of car it is, what company made the cars, General Motors, all that type of stuff, you know what I mean? All right, next image. All right, boom. It had a set of tires on there. They all was the same brand. They had a good decent amount of tread on them too. I like them tires. I kind of want to take tires out of the car before I got rid of it, but kept tires on there. Had some little Steelies on it. I didn't mind them. I didn't really want Steelies too much. I did put a magnet on the bottom of the transmission pan. This is what the motor looked like after I done dolled it up and cleaned it up and wiped it up. This is what it looked like after it got put in that car that night, that long night with the fireworks popping in the background. I thought it came out pretty good. It was running pretty good. And yeah. Pretty much hooked up the starter. Filled it up with power steering fluid, filled it up with coolant, filled it up with oil, filled up transmission fluid, hooked the mounts back up, brand new terminals on the battery, hooked the mounts up, fuse box has been put back, air box has been put back, everything. I believe it did have an ABS light, a check engine light, and a traction control light. The check engine light was a P0300. I think it was random or multiple cylinder misfire. I'm not too sure why the ABS system was malfunctioning. It's probably some type of speed sensor. Probably Probably did mess up a speed sensor. I did buy these nice fancy hubcaps. Did have the owner's manual. I still have the owner manual right now. I didn't want to sell it with the car. I kept it because when are you ever going to see a Pontiac owner's manual like that ever again in your life? I already told you guys I took the carpet out, so it literally was just bare floor. I was kind of going for like a race car look. I wasn't trying to make this like a daily driver. This is kind of like the little beater, the everyday beater car type of look. It was not a Mercedes. It's not a Buick. It ain't nothing fancy. It's a Pontiac. You know what I mean? The back seats was very big on this car. I'm not gonna lie. The rear glass was almost touching the top of your head, but that door opened very wide, like abnormally wide. I could fit a lot of stuff back there. That door opened so wide, man. But yeah, I put the little orange little trim pieces on the side. I like the way the door handles look on it. It was GM, so it was super cheap plastic. The spare tires in the trunk, took the lining out the trunk. I had drove all the way to another city just to take these pictures. I took my time really kind of planning out what caps I wanted and what angles I wanted to take the photos at and how I wanted the car to look. I did like how the radio and the key and all the information was angled towards you. It's the first time I've had ever seen that in an old car like that. It was a '06. It was very nice. I also like how the front end of the car looks. It looks really aggressive. The turn signals are those fog light looking things at the bottom. Kind of different, you know. This is the side angle of the car. It was a 4-door sedan with a V6 in it. It's pretty fuel efficient. I drove it to work a couple times after I put the motor back in it. I like the way the back of the car looks. The taillights look like triangles. Has that third brake light on it with that spoiler. Looks real nice. This is me back at the house. Kind of just taking the last couple pictures with it. The back doors open very wide. Like, you'll see what I mean. They open very wide. Trunk, a lot of space in that trunk. If I had to buy another one of these cars, I definitely would buy another one of these cars. V6, good on gas, decent 0 to 60, doesn't look too ugly. It's nice and appealing to the eye, and they come supercharged and with a V8 in them. I wouldn't mind buying another one of these cars. This is a very good car, very good learning lesson in life. Taught myself a lot, screwed up a lot, had to buy a lot of relays, had to buy a lot of sensors. I actually broke the EGR2, putting it back in the engine bay. Had to buy a new EGR, which is an exhaust gas recirculation little device. It's like 2 bolts in a gasket. Yeah, it was a Grand Prix. I think it's been in Texas its entire life. I mean, look at these pictures, man. Look at these pictures, dog. 2006 Pontiac Grand Prix. It's the base model. It don't got the supercharger. It's not the 5.3 GXP, the GTP. This is just GP. It's got a 3800 V6, the 4T65E front wheel drive transmission. And that for $1,200. I got an ABS light, a traction light, and a check engine light for a P0300, which is random or multiple cylinder misfire. And it's the lifter that's collapsed that's causing it to misfire. I'm going to Belton right now to take some pictures of it. I don't know if I'm gonna miss this car or not, but it has surprised me for what it is as far as performance. But the looks of it, it's not all that. It is a W body. And yeah. Alright, so cool. These are the hubcaps I bought. I end up selling it for, I believe it was $600. I don't remember. I just know it was not $1,200. This is some other angles of the motor dangling from the hoist. You know, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I would buy it again if I could.